Chris Lee and Blake Lovell of Southeastern 14 here for our usual Wednesday night live stream. We are down a man. Our friend Blaine is in Disney World. We're down a man.
What's he doing?
Man down.
Vacationing when we got this live stream to do with the people. Come on, man.
There's no vacation in football season.
We don't take vacations around here. But by the way, we don't take vacations around here. But Chris, you're on the hook for Saturday. You're doing everything yourself. So
yeah, well, that's going to be an adventure. And I'll be at Vandy Ole Miss in the press box for that one, which of course is a 3:00 kickoff because that's how that's going to go.
We'll find a way to make it work. So, But as always, we will jump into all the action, maybe not everything equally, as we look at, some fun stuff heading into, what is this week? What is this, week 6?
Week 6.
Yeah.
Week 7, if you want to include week 0 and make that week 1.
Yeah. So there you go.
This is a really good week of games.
Yeah.
Really good week of games. It's starting right up. When was the last time we had an 11:00 slate of games as strong as the one we're looking at?
Pretty good.
I know that's not the highest bar to clear, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. I mean, it's, we always say, a good SEC Saturday is when games are kind of staggered a bit, but clearly you've got some good ones. Yeah. The 11 Central kickoff, clearly highlighted, Chris, by a game that I think some of our audience members are a little bit interested in. And believe it or not, we're not referencing Arkansas, Mississippi State, although we know there's a lot of reference or a lot of interest in that. We're talking about Tennessee LSU because, my goodness, did Tennessee and LSU fans have a time this week with our prediction video, and there's a lot of anticipation for that one there in Baton Rouge. So,
does Razorback Nation not love us anymore?
Well, they love us. They just don't love the.
I think
way
they're
their team
ignoring
is playing
football right now.
Yeah, I think they still enjoy us, but I think that they are more thinking about maybe the hardwood a little bit. So, yeah.
But by the way, for people new to the Wednesday night show, we spend a lot of time addressing your comments and questions. We spend a lot of time getting our pets to be quiet.
Yeah,
and we preview the games for the coming weekend. We look at best bets. We just have fun, but it is mostly a listener-driven show. So if you've got something in the chat that you want us to address, we will address it. Again, our show presented by Steaks, so beginning shout out to those guys, and we'll even talk a little hoops if you want to. Although we're doing our research for that, so we're not completely there, but we could talk off the cuff if needed. Cover baseball, basketball, and football. That. Yeah. Although speaking of baseball, how about the SEC screwing up the conference slate? Did you catch that? They had to re-release the schedule this week.
That's always a tough job. I don't envy anyone who has to come up with these schedules. Much easier in football, less games. You can figure out probably a way for it to work. But anyways, beyond that,
it's going to be a football night.
Juan brings up, spoiler. I think and I don't know, it's not spoiler, it's probably not the right word, but we talked about, Chris, this week in the power rankings. We said that group of 3, like that Kentucky, LSU, Mississippi State group. Of course, Kentucky, loses the game to Ole Miss, but you look at like Mississippi State and LSU now. Mississippi State's lost to LSU, but like those teams are 3. I think that it's just kind of fascinating to see where they go from here. Which, again, Kentucky and Mississippi State are going to play here pretty soon, right? Or is it November maybe? So big week for those 3 teams.
That one is October the 15th.
Yeah.
Next weekend.
Oh, next week. That's right. I was thinking November. But yeah, clearly, if we're talking about teams with the most to gain this week, I think you clearly start with. Look, I say that aside from an Auburn or A&M winning on the road against Alabama or Georgia, which they're heavy underdogs to do so, but I think it's very clear that LSU is the team with just an enormous amount to gain if they were to beat Tennessee. Um, vice versa, Tennessee's got a lot to gain too. But if you're just looking at it from that standpoint, if LSU were to beat Tennessee, that's a big jump in terms of perception. So,
Yeah, I mean, Missouri could have some things to gain for sure that we did not expect to be talking about Missouri being interesting after what we figured would be a Georgia demolition, but was not. I think South Carolina, if South Carolina pulls an upset of Kentucky, Carolina's been kind of lying there in the weeds. It had that tough start, didn't look good, had the get well games. Carolina does do some things well. Carolina also does some things very poorly, as in throw interceptions. But Kentucky does not run away from people. So that's an interesting one to watch. Frankly, probably the most boring game this week might be the one that everyone circled as the game to watch in all of college football.
I still think
23 and a half points now.
I still think there's a lot of intrigue there because I think some people want to see, is Alabama gonna put the foot down and not let off? I mean, it is. I told you, Chris, we did our reaction videos. I said I think I'd set it at 25. Thought it may be more like 21, but kind of in the middle there now. But yeah, I mean, it is kind of interesting to think where both teams are at. But look, I mean, we said this. Tennessee LSU. Remember way back when, Chris, when we're having the conversation about that Tennessee Alabama game and wondering the potential atmosphere that could be if both teams come in unbeaten, right? We're getting ahead of ourselves here because again, Tennessee's got to win a tough game at LSU, and Alabama's got to take care of business against A&M, which we think the setup is pretty nice to do that. But man, just think about it. I don't want to think too much about it yet. Tennessee got to win the game first, right? But it's going to be unbelievable next.
That would
just
be
an unbelievable scene if that is your setup next week. Which again, we're getting ahead of ourselves here, but
would game day go back to Knoxville? It wouldn't go two times.
Why would you not?
3 weeks or 4, would it?
You'd have to be there next. There's no other choice. I don't get.
Does game day usually make a repeat trip that quickly? I don't follow game day destinations as much as others do.
Well, still, I mean, I just think it's like, man, this is, come on. I don't know if you have a choice, but anyways, so let's look at some more of these thoughts coming in here. Chris Chris, clearly a Tennessee fan, but thinks UK's a fraud. He wants Blaine here. Look, Chris, Blaine's out there on what are the rides? I don't even know the rides anymore at Disney World, Chris.
Space Mountain.
Everything's a mountain. The Splash Mountain, like there's all kinds of mountains there. That's all I know at Disney World. So, hey, I've also been a defender of Kentucky, so put it on me too, Chris. Put it on me too. So
I've been the low man on Kentucky, and you and I had a conversation off podcast this week about that. I think Kentucky is a good team. I think Kentucky is a top 25 team. I do not think Kentucky was the top 10 team it was cracked up to be. I did some number gazing and crunching this week, and I started. I'm now looking at a thing where I calculate. And a lot of people just tuned us out right there when I use the word calculate, probably. But I like to look at, okay, when a team wants to throw the ball, what happens? When a team wants to run the ball, what happens? In other words, sacks don't count in rushing yards. They count against passing yards. Kentucky is averaging, I think, 10 yards an attempt? If you throw sacks in as pass plays, that goes all the way down to 8. Like, their pass blocking has been that much of an issue. If you take sacks out of rush yardage, we've talked about Kentucky having problems running the ball. It's not as bad. Kentucky running for, what is it? It's still not great. 3.6 yards per rush, which is going to get better with Rodriguez back. But my point is that offensive line is a huge issue for Kentucky now. And I think it showed up last week against Ole Miss. I think that South Carolina-Kentucky game I finally had to come down on something, and I took Kentucky over the 9.5, but I do not feel good about it at all. And I'll tell you why I did it. Carolina's thrown 7 interceptions, and Kentucky's got 4 picks, and Kentucky is the type of defense that can force some turnovers, I think. Both of them really good special teams, by the way. That's something that doesn't get talked about. But I do think that some of the issues with Kentucky I had pointed out a little bit ahead of time, and they started to pop up. I think Kentucky gets a little bit of a bounce back at home against Carolina this week. But again, I'm not – that is not the bet the house on it game for sure.
By the way, Stephen asks how weak or strong South Carolina is against the run. They're 107, I think we talked about in the preview video, in terms of rushing defense. So they rank 107th nationally. They've given up 10 touchdowns, I think, via the run. 100,
But
about 185 yards.
Right. If you take sacks out.
If you take sacks out.
5.1 a rush is what Carolina is giving up. No, I'm sorry. That's what it's getting. What it's giving up is 4.6. So not as bad. But Carolina giving up 6.4 per pass if you factor in sacks in that. Now, here's the weird thing. Carolina is not a sack-based defense. It's sacked 4. It's got 4 sacks all year. And Kentucky's given up 19. So I think that's where I finally came down on that game, is that Carolina is not adept at doing the things that would really give Kentucky issues, which Ole Miss was.
That's probably the thinking. I think, and why. Yeah, I think Kentucky bounces back, and it's just it'll be interesting to see though, because that was a tough loss there to that one. So we'll see. So, all right, what else we got, Chris?
Well, we have not really dived into Tennessee and LSU yet, but because I think we were waiting for people to get here, but let's do that now.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a fascinating game. There's no other way to put it. So,
this is one of those games, like, you have those nagging things that you're like, well, I'm going to pick this team, but if this team loses, then I'm going to feel stupid because I should have seen X, Y, Z. This is one of those games that I've had a very difficult time coming down on the side, because I can make really good cases why each team can win. And I think whichever way it goes, I'm not going to feel like an idiot, because I just think both are good teams. Now, I am going to take Tennessee, and I think I will take Tennessee in the points, but that is one of those things that you're going, okay, LSU playing at home. It is not a night game, but it is in Baton Rouge. LSU's defense has been good. Let me give you some numbers. LSU is giving up 4.2 yards per rush play, but just 5.7 per pass play, which is really good. Of course, Tennessee's averaging 10.4 a pass play. LSU's offense, we're still not quite as sure what that is, but Tennessee, we're not sure what the defense is there either. Neither team very good on special teams, but I think here's where I came down, Blake. When in doubt, pick the better quarterback. And right now, there just isn't much in the way of a better quarterback anywhere for any team than Hendon Hooker.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that. I think one of the things we talked about was, I think this is one of those games where even if you pick apart some of the things with Tennessee's defense, and let's say Tennessee gets up in this game and LSU's having to play from behind and pass the ball a lot, you can look at it and say, okay, it's maybe a setup where Daniels can pick apart some of those things with the Tennessee defense. But the problem is, like you said, it's not like LSU has been this just, they haven't been outstanding numbers wise in terms of the passing yardage either. Like, and I know a lot of people looked at that game against LSU, against Auburn. I've got to look that up in terms of the actual stats. But, I think, like you said, to me, it's just one of those things with Tennessee right now. I think you just kind of look at that to where I just don't know that LSU is necessarily the team that will pick apart Tennessee, maybe just with how the offense is structured. But to me, it always goes back to everything I've said about Tennessee. I'm just like, I think even if Tennessee is not perfect defensively, what is the thing I've said the same thing since July? They're going to outscore
Just
people.
be good enough.
They just have to be decent enough on defense. They're going to outscore people because I don't look around and see a lot of people, if anyone, that's going to just shut Tennessee down. I just don't think you can do it. Now, maybe some team here in the future proves me wrong. Maybe it starts this weekend with LSU. I don't know. But I think for the most part, the sample size we've seen is that slowing this team down is going to be very hard to do. And that's where I think if you're looking at it from LSU's standpoint, offensively, can they do the same knowing, and I think, look, Tyler kind of brings up a good point here. And this is something I was going to, it's a very good point in terms of what Daniels could do against this defense. And, I just think this is going to be a very, very fun matchup because I'm curious to see what LSU offensively will do against this Tennessee defense. I just think that to me is the most interesting part of this whole thing.
I was doing a quick Google search on Jaden Daniels to see if there's anything updated here. He left the Auburn game with an injury. I was listening to, I think it's Blake Ruffino this morning on Nashville radio, and he thought that it's going to be just a pain management issue for Jaden Daniels against Tennessee. In other words, I guess they'll go shoot him up with whatever and throw him out there again, and just can you handle the pain if you're feeling it, and do you get it hurt again? So that's all I've got. Cedric Tillman, Tennessee's been without him a couple weeks. You almost forget about that because the offense has been so good anyway. But that's another thing to watch is him in that one, and I need to Google that one too.
Well, I mean, I'm just, I think we've said LSU is a team trending in the right direction. And I just think you look at this and, again, there may be some things, but when you can look at Daniel's numbers to this point, and again, very efficient against New Mexico, right? Very efficient against Southern. Only had to throw, that was just a complete blowout. We've seen the efficiency against, even in the first game against Florida State, when you look at his passing numbers. But I think a lot of people will look at the Auburn game and say, well, what does that look like from that standpoint, right? He goes 8 of 20, I think it was, right? He got sacked 3 times, ran the ball, 16 times, I think. And people talk about, kind of the injury factoring into that. I just think still we can have that discussion about all those different facets. But for me, it still comes down to, do I think LSU can shut Tennessee down to the point of being able to perhaps keep up with them scoring wise? I just don't right now. And I think that's what it, because look, we've talked about LSU's defense too, right, Chris? Like that's something we've mentioned, like especially that front for LSU. Can they push Tennessee to make those mistakes? That's also the question you have here, because they're just like, we could spend this entire hour. We're not going to, by the way, guys, but we could spend this entire hour talking about this game. And I don't know that I come out of it any different, just because I think you look at all the different little things you can bounce off and say, well, this could, or if this happens. A lot of good talent on both sides, but like I said, I think just looking at it on paper, I still lean towards Tennessee in terms of just kind of where they're at right now. So
now the thing for Tennessee is the Vols, Hendon Hooker's not thrown an interception all year,
right,
which I think that bodes pretty well for playing on the road. Now, if I've got this right, Tennessee has lost 5 fumbles, and I think LSU has picked up 8, which is a lot. So that's one thing that does stick out as a place where LSU might have an edge. But let me bring up one other thing. And again, I'm not moving off my pick of Tennessee in this game, but this is just all right, let's ponder this in case it goes another way. What was that score of the state game? Was it 31-17 LSU?
16, I think. Yeah.
Mississippi State is a really good team. Really good team. That's the only game that State has lost. State throws the ball all over the yard. State runs the ball pretty well this year too. I think that's a very good Mississippi State team. It is a top 15 team nationally in our computer composite this week, I believe. And State gave Mississippi State fits. Now, Tennessee's
Really.
passing game is different, and its offense is a little different than State, so it's not apples to apples, but that is a little something to give some thought to in this one. And again, what I think is this is a really good matchup. I had a hard time knowing what to do with it. I am taking Tennessee, but State has faced one really good offense. And oh, by the way, Mississippi State's defense pretty good too. And so LSU, getting 31 on that defense is no small feat either.
Yeah, and I think for me the difference is still I just think Tennessee's a better team than Mississippi State, and I think it's a scenario where I think there is that big playability. I think both teams have it, but I think Tennessee we've seen kind of what that looks like. And look, Chris, it comes down to Hooker too. I mean, it's just you have all the trust in him right now if you're a Tennessee fan. Like, there's no reason not to. Complete grasp of the offense, knows exactly what they want to do, and they execute relentless. I mean, they are just relentless in terms of their execution at this point offensively. And I think that's where, going on the road, big test, it's a little different than the Pitt road game, but at the same time, like, you've seen him in this spot and feel like through, this many games that they just have a total grasp of what they want to do offensively. Not saying they'll be perfect, flawless, all that, but I still think it's an opportunity for them to be able to win this game. And we point out all the stats, right? Like, that's always kind of the fun thing to do. If you're looking at the betting trends, we pointed this out in our videos. But Tennessee, if you're looking to bet something based on Tennessee, Chris, what do you think you're going to bet with this between the points, over under, and the spread? I think you're going to bet the over, right? When it comes to Tennessee, given how many points they put up. Well, here's another reason to do so. The over's 5-0 the last 5 SEC games they played. 7-0 for Tennessee, following I think it is not covering, right? So following a game where they did not cover, the over is 7-0 for the Vols in their last 7 games. If you look at the matchup, the road team 6-0-2 against the spread in the last 8 meetings here. So that's something else to kind of think about with this one. But there are so many different angles we could get into. We cover the entire SEC, but clearly a lot of you guys, as we've seen from our video this week, this is the one everybody's kind of talking about around us, because it is just such an interesting matchup. So.
Yeah, and Tennessee fans have weighed in with all the ways that Tennessee's offense is different than State's, and I get that. I was not claiming that it's apples to apples. I said that up front. I was just saying that LSU does have a little bit of a history of stopping the best offense that has played so far, which again, that game was in its building too.
Something I haven't mentioned in this one too, and I think it is worth mentioning. I think we did say it in the preview video, but I mean, Chris, last week you and I don't know, maybe we're doing that live stream. I think as we're watching that, I mean, LSU's defense, Auburn looked like Tennessee running their offense early on, right?
That's a great point.
That is something. Now, look, that LSU rallied for the win, and that's what we said. You can't take that away. I mean, that was just as impressive as the fact that they were able to come out and that game got to where it was 17-0. You're down, and yet you're still able to pretty much just shut Auburn down the rest of the way. Auburn offense, Tennessee offense, completely different. We know that. But it's not like LSU was just defensively. They corrected that. But, the turnovers, think about how many turnovers Auburn had in that game, which, of course, LSU had something to do with that. But there was a stretch there where it looked like, we're looking up and we're like, my goodness, Auburn's passing offense looks like Tennessee out there. So I think that's something. Now, this is one of those games you cannot afford those stretches, right? Like, if they have that kind of stretch against Tennessee, they're putting up more than 17 points. Like, that's the thing. But I think we saw that correction from LSU. They were able to get some of those turnovers, and the defense sort of calmed down and was able to make those plays. So, so I think that's something else too to kind of think about when you look at kind of that stretch we saw specifically in that game against Auburn. So,
okay, I'm looking at stakes, sometimes I forget what I've put in here because on these, sometimes I remember because I have a very strong opinion. Sometimes it is not as clear. I actually took the under in this game. 63.5 in the stakes app. And I took Tennessee to win outright. And so, of course, I took, well, no, I don't think I put cover in there, but I think I am taking Tennessee to cover if I've not put it in there. But speaking of stakes, every weekend in college football, the stakes app needs to be your friend. We are almost to the midpoint of the regular season. The best place to make your sports predictions is at Stakes. That is STAKES. You risk no bankroll because it costs nothing to join, costs nothing to play. You can predict anything in the game, take the game time excitement to the next level when you compete with your friends and others on the Stakes app during weekly competitions. Build your predictions track record by winning competitions and earning NFT trophies for making the perfect calls. Go to playwithstakes.com/14. Sign up. Use the invite code Southeastern14 for a double welcome bonus. So you guys in the chat, if you've not done that yet, please sign up for Stakes. You can follow our account, Southeastern14, make some bets along with us again. All for fun. You can win stuff and is no cost to play. So I did put the under on this one. By the way, if you look at points scored and points given up for both teams, the over is about 4 points higher than the level at which these teams usually perform, which is the biggest difference between what teams do and the over-under. In other words, if the teams do what they normally do, you'd expect 59 points in the game. The over was 63 points the over-under was 63 when I put it in the app. It's 64.5 now. So it's gone up. I'm liking the under on this one.
The under via covers 3-0-1 in the last 4 games between these two teams. So,
okay.
So there you go. By the way, also for a little plug, if you want to help us out via the super chats, you can do that. So a lot of people have left us super chats since we started doing these live streams this season. All you have to do is look at that little heart down there, and that just means you love us. By giving us that little dollar sign there, you can donate any amount of money you want. That just allows us to do more videos. So leave those super chats. Anything else you want to add to it in that chat, go right ahead. But we do, as always, appreciate your support of the channel. So what else we got, Chris? How about we transition to this right here real quick, because this is an interesting question from Tyler. Auburn gets blown out this weekend against Georgia. What does that look like, you think?
Well, I'm gonna give away. This will be one of my best bets. I think that, and again, we're not professional gamblers. We don't want to be, but we just watch a lot of football. We have opinions based on what we have seen. 29.5 is a lot of points.
That is, I think about
given
that,
the way
Chris,
Georgia has played lately.
Here's the better point. Like, Auburn is a 30-point underdog in an SEC football game. That in and of itself is probably firing material for any Auburn fan. Just unreal. So that's just it's unreal to think that's yeah.
Is it 5 or 6 Power 5 coaches have already been fired since the season has started?
Well,
if
it's 5,
it's Wisconsin, Colorado. I can probably get these, but I mean,
somebody will pull it up.
I think we would have thought one of them would have been Brian Harsin if that many changes had been made. But I mean, yeah, I mean, dead man walking has been a theme since January. I mean, it's been
yeah. So yeah, that's it. Scott Frost, Collins, Georgia Tech. Yeah, quite a few. But I think it's an interesting question.
Oh, and Herm Edwards.
Yeah, well, that was something. Because Auburn's, I know a lot of people have been saying, do you just wait until after the bye? Which, again, you think about kind of their schedule, right? They're at Georgia this weekend, number 2 team in the country. at Ole Miss next weekend, number 9 team in the country right now. And then you got the bye before you play Arkansas at home. I don't know. I don't know if you, depending on what this looks like, I just don't know if you can wait that long. But I would understand if that's when they make the move, is if they come out, because then you have more. I don't want to say motivation. That's a wrong word for a firing. But if you kind of look at, if they get blown out at Georgia and let's say they go lose at Ole Miss, right? And it's similar. Like, I think at that point there's no chance. Probably beyond the bye week. So, yeah, we'll see. Harrison family, nice to see you via text as always. Yeah, that's a lot of points. Again, it's just a lot of points when you think about it. But so we'll see.
Deion to Auburn. I don't think so. I will stand by. I think it's going to be Hugh Freeze.
I mean, you could, yeah. I wouldn't be shocked by that at all. So, or just bring the lane train on down to Auburn. How about that? Really spice
I don't
things
see
up.
it.
I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just trying to have some fun here, Chris. Come on, please.
I'm the
Come
the
on,
joy
man.
kill.
Jeez. Come on, get on board with Deion or Lane Kiffin for the pure nature of the
What about
story.
Deion and Lane? let Deion.
Can
be
you
the
imagine
defensive
those two working
coordinator.
together? Holy, that'd be 1 week, or not even a week, but
Right.
a couple days. They'd be splitting. So yeah.
Drinkwitz is another one. That one too is an interesting game. I don't have a really strong feel of Missouri, Florida.
Well,
I mean, let's look at both these teams. Okay, let's rewind a little bit. Sorry to cut you off, but I think
no, you're going to say what I was going to say.
Well, okay. Missouri looked good against Louisiana Tech for what it's worth. Looked like garbage at Kansas State. Looked like garbage against Abilene Christian. Darn near won at Auburn. And then just about pulled the upset of the decade against Georgia. Florida beat Utah, which you're seeing Utah now has snuck back into the top 5 of the computers. Lost to Kentucky at home. Darn near lost to a probably one of the 20 worst teams in the FBS. South Florida. Darn near came back and won in Knoxville, and then took care of business against Eastern Washington the way it should have taken care of business. As I said before the season, Florida is a little bit of a rebuild. It needed a culture change. Anytime you get in with a new coach and a new way of doing things, sometimes it takes a while for those things to take root. I said from the start I would rather play Florida the first half of the season than last half. Well, we were almost to the second half of the season, and my goodness, I don't think that I don't think there's 2 SEC teams that have thrown up more contradictory pieces of evidence about how good they are or aren't than these two. I mean, I just God help you figuring this one out this week. I'm taking Florida to win, probably Florida cover, but I wouldn't put a penny on any of it.
Here's the thing, Chris. Tyler said exactly what I said in the preview video this week. I said, here's the thing about Missouri is I just think we've seen so many instances of this before where a team just almost pulls off, like you said, one of the biggest upsets in SEC football history. That is not me being like, that's the team we had number 14 in our power rankings against the team we had number 1 in our power rankings. So you can debate whether they should have been there or not. But just from that gap in the SEC, we know over the years from the best team to the worst team, that's a big gap. But clearly Missouri is getting better. Like they're improving in some of these areas. They've been right there the last 2 games. But I just think after what happened in the Auburn game, now what happened against the Georgia game, like I worry, like, did they just come out completely flat here? And that's my thing here. And like you said, I don't want any part of this game if I was a professional bettor, I wouldn't want anything to do with this one. But it is worth noting via covers that the under 4-0 Missouri this season, or in the last 4 games for Missouri, Florida, the under 5-1 in Florida's last 6 games in October And Chris, to cap it off, the under 5-0 in the last 5 meetings between these teams. So everything trend wise tells you that the under is the best bet for this one.
Well, let me give you a little supporting evidence here for that. I don't know why I'm at such a loss for words tonight. That's not a good thing when you talk for a living. But do you want to know what the best kept secret I think is in the SEC this year? It's so secret you're not going to guess it.
Well, hold on. Besides our YouTube channel?
Besides that.
No, I don't know.
Missouri's defense.
Well, we've talked about it a bit, I think.
Do you remember what kind of hot garbage Missouri's defense was a year ago? Do you remember that?
Yes.
That
I remember the Tennessee
debacle?
game vividly.
Oh, my good. I mean, Tennessee is still scoring touchdowns against Missouri last year. Missouri this year, and again, this is taking sacks out of it. And just like if a play is supposed to be a pass play, then a sack counts. Every time Missouri tries or someone tries to run the ball in Missouri, 4.2 yards a carry against. That's very respectable. Pass plays, teams are only averaging 5.8 yards a pass play against Missouri. I bet you the percentage of people in the audience who would have guessed that would be about 0. Missouri's got 6 picks this year. Excuse me, it's thrown 6 picks. It's got 4, which is decent. Now, throwing picks has been an issue for Missouri's. I just kind of pointed out. But my point is, look, everybody looks at Florida, Alabama, A&M like people do entire hour shows, and Missouri probably never comes up. We try to pay attention to everybody and everything. And that defense, not only in the stats, but when I watch them at times, has been very sneaky good. And we have talked about how erratic Florida's offense has been. Now, it has been better the last couple of games. I don't know if Anthony Richardson has turned a corner or if it's just called playing Eastern Washington and playing Tennessee. No disrespect to the Vols, but pass defense is not that team's strength. So I think that's still a mystery, but I think that Florida-Missouri game is probably getting glossed over. I think it's more intriguing than people think.
Well, the problem it runs into is that it's the number 3 game in the 3-game 11 a.m. Central kickoff slot in terms of LSU, Tennessee, and Mississippi State, Arkansas. So, look, I love me some ESPNU, Chris, but ESPNU has become the land of the we got to find a place to put this game.
Ocho.
And
it's the Ocho.
Yeah. So, but yeah, no, it's. I think, like you said, I would expect this to be a lower scoring game. It seems like, given Missouri's defensive improvement, and I don't know, I just feel like this is kind of one of those grinded out type games for both teams, perhaps. But I'm curious to see what it does look like from that standpoint. By the way,
the Arkansas fans are rolling into the chat now, so this
here.
would be a good time to talk about the Razorbacks and Mississippi State.
Well, Chris, I'll tell you my opinions, and I know we have Arkansas fans in here. There's a lot of them. You guys, I know you watched the video we did this week, and I think a lot of you agree with us in terms of, I don't know what else you can say about the fact that when you look at the challenges of the Arkansas defense against a Mississippi State offense that wants to throw the ball as much as they can. Yes, I know their rushing numbers have been better than you would think this year, but Mike Leach wants to throw the ball. That much I can guarantee you. I just think it's a bad matchup on paper when you look at the way Arkansas's defense is played. So that is, if this is in Fayetteville, how much different is my opinion? I think it's just based on the atmosphere and the home field. But beyond that, like, I still think you look at this and just feel like it's just a bad matchup, Chris. That's all I can say. Like, I just, I don't know.
Well, as much as we've hammered on Arkansas's pass defense all year, the run defense last week was awful.
They just give us so many big plays.
Well, here's the thing. Arkansas does make up for that a little bit. Like, Arkansas has got 21 sacks. So when you get off a pass, it's a disaster. But there's 21 times this year teams haven't. And State has been prone to giving up some sacks under Mike Leach. It's not awful this year. It's given up 9. But what concerns me here a little bit too is State is starting to run the ball a bit. And it ran it pretty well against A&M, which, like, those are words I never thought would have come out of my mouth a month ago, but I saw it with my own eyes. I still have this weird feeling that in spite of everything that I'm putting out there, Arkansas is going to cover. I think winning that game in Starkville might be too much to bite off, but I think there's some resiliency left in Arkansas here, Blake.
I mean, I've always said I think a Sam Pittman team. He's pretty good at that kind of stuff. Probably from a standpoint. I don't doubt that Arkansas is going to be ready to play. Like I don't think that's a question. But I mean, when you think about, we're talking about this on Wednesday, right? KJ Jefferson, as Eric just pointed out, he hasn't practiced all week, and
Yeah, no, that would change things.
I mean, you think about how that kind of factors into the mix, right? Then you've got issues. So I think that's probably the thing, you kind of look at and wonder, look, that completely changes the dynamic of this game. And if you take that element out, yeah, Arkansas still got playmakers, but that's a big part of it too. And so
Yeah.
it just sets up to be, you know, it's not a great setup on paper. Let's just point that out, right? So
That line has gone from what, 6.5 to 9.5, and that's got to be why.
That's the Jefferson factor. Yeah. I mean, look, I just think it's a bad matchup. So,
yeah.
I mean, look, we said it. Somebody asked in the chat, and maybe someone that's in there right now, right? That someone asked a couple weeks ago, like, is Arkansas going 0-4 in this stretch of their next 4 games? Well, they're 0-2 right now, and they're almost a double-digit underdog now in this one. And then who is it next week, Chris? Why am I not remembering
At
off the top of my head?
BYU.
Yeah, BYU, another tough
which
game.
is a crazy trip.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's just not ideal, I think, for this, just in terms of the matchup and kind of the way things have been trending there for the Hogs. But if you want to be optimistic, Chris, you know what you can do? If you want to be optimistic, you can look at it and say, I am optimistic about what Arkansas is going to do here on the football field, but I'm also optimistic about what Arkansas is going to do on the basketball court this season, because you know what, Chris? Just like Kentucky, Tennessee, we have got basketball previews, season previews up for these 3 teams at this point. We'll have more on the way. So there's my shameless plug of our basketball content.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun. We are super stoked for basketball season. If you're new, we cover all 3: football, baseball, basketball. Here's a little good news if you're Arkansas. State is giving up 5.2 yards a run play. And Rocket Sanders can run the ball a little bit. That might be a way to mitigate not having your quarterback if that's what happens. So
Mississippi State knows that too, and they're
I'm big on State. I mean, I've been big on that team since before the season started. I'm not coming off State winning that game. I'm just trying to be, present all sides of everything here. But
yep, it's tough. Like I said, this is just an unbelievably tough stretch for Arkansas, and it's not. Yeah, the schedule's not helping, but the play on the field has not helped either. And yeah, it's just not been a good couple weeks there for the Hogs fans. So
Arkansas is that close from the complexion of the season being a lot different. And let's not forget, Arkansas has bagged a very nice win over Cincinnati, which is a top 20 team in the computers right now. So there is that. It's not like it's, I know it's not been the season they wanted since they lost that A&M game, but that's a nice feather to have in your cap there too.
I don't think they're thinking about that at this point. I think
the A&M game followed by the way they lost. I mean, Arkansas had everything right there lining up to make that a game, and then they just couldn't stop the run.
Do we give A&M any chance whatsoever against Alabama? Does anyone out there in the chat, do you give A&M any chance? And I'm not saying this to demean A&M. I'm just asking, like, find me a path offensively for A&M again in this game, and I will I will entertain it. But I just think this is another one of those matchups like we talked about Mississippi State's offense against Arkansas's defense, recent trends. I feel like it's going to be tough for A&M to put up some points here against this Alabama defense. So
better chance of A&M winning or A&M getting shut out?
I mean, I think that's the shutout's probably the better choice.
That's probably not a
Yeah.
highly debated.
Um,
That one is now 23.5. It's been that for a while. I think it started. Did it open at 21.5?
I don't remember. I think it did. No, it opened higher, didn't it? I
Did
think
it
it was
really?
higher.
Okay.
I think it was higher. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Nonetheless, it's high. So, nonetheless. So,
have we seen a Max Johnson update?
Oh yeah, I forgot we had that too.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, Chris. I don't think it matters who the quarterback is, and I've said I think Max Johnson's actually a better quarterback than people give him credit for. But,
Well,
you know,
Haynes King is a walking interception. So,
I mean,
although Alabama's only got one pick this year, so maybe you can get away with some things there. Although I think that's a fluke. But
Juan, we talked about this a while back in terms of. I think this was a heated debate Chris and I had going into the season, and Blaine was on there too. I think talking about the expectations for this Texas A&M team, and I just said there comes a point where you're paying the guy as much as you're paying the guy. It's great to say we're young. It's great to say this or that, but the thing is, like the SEC, you guys know, like it's results. You got to win games, and at a certain point, the standard for A&M does not become losing 4 games in a season. It becomes we're paying you a lot of money to go out and beat Nick Saban and win the West. And I think, again, I'm not an A&M fan, but I mean, like, I'm just saying, like, I don't, Chris, you can tell me what you think at this point, like where things are now. Because again, it's not like they're walking into this game as the favorite or anything, but that's the problem, right? And I know they lost one of their top playmaker, Smith, for the season, and that's just a tough break. And you can point back to that, and I'm sure we'll talk about it as we do like the reflection on their season. But some things are out of your control when you're a coach, but at the same time, you're getting paid a lot of money. And if they lose 4 games this season or something like that, there's clearly, I think, still going to be a lot of frustration. So,
okay, you remember what I said before the season. I called out this exact scenario. I said, look, I understand that everybody is excited about what A&M has, but you have a little bit of uncertainty at quarterback, and more than that, you've got a lot of really young guys. The whole class may be 5 stars and high 4 stars, but they are freshmen. They are doing this for the first time. They are going up against the SEC West. And I asked the question, what happens if this is not the, 10-2 or what everybody was expecting? Well, we've already gotten to that point. And I still don't know that we've got a resolution on the what if, because let's try this on for size. You decide you are moving on from your head coach. You owe him, what was it, $91 million?
86, I think, is what it is.
I mean, what's $5 million among?
I mean, you can go buy yourself. And I'm just kidding.
It's true. You could buy a YouTube channel.
We got
I know one that
listen. If you want to sponsor us for that
Right.
extra $5 million, Jimbo, you go right ahead. Although I don't think he's going to be sponsoring us anytime soon. But
okay, so then you do the so what? How many of those kids hit the portal?
yeah, I mean, how many of those
So
kids hit the portal
you're
anyways?
paying a coach $86 million not to coach. You're going to go find somebody else, probably pay that guy what? Minimum of 7-8 mil a year for at least 5-6 years. You got that check to write. You got a recruiting class that starts bleeding in the portal potentially. I mean, that I get that.
Oh, this is a funny one for a lot of different reasons, but
I'm going to go out on a limb and say yes, we would.
Absolutely. We are full on selling the channel. We're going to state that right now. We love you guys, but we don't love you that much. For 86 million, we'll bring all you guys to the island somewhere. So, yeah.
The island with the moat.
Oh, man. I had a response to
But
that, but that threw me off. I can't remember what I was going to say. I'll remember in a second. Go
my
ahead.
point is, I get everybody wants him gone. I get all the reasons, but then you have to deal with the what if, the what comes next. And I don't know what that's a problem. I mean,
Yeah.
I get it's a problem. He is not meeting expectations, but you got him.
Oh.
You've got issues whichever way you turn.
Well, guess what, Chris? There's a bigger issue coming in 2025 or earlier, and that is when Texas comes into this league. And you want to talk about results? If you're losing 4 games a season, I don't care where Texas is right now. That's irrelevant at this very moment. But I think there's talk about the pressure on that Texas A&M job. You can say what you want, man. When Texas gets in this league, that pressure is going up even further because you finish below Texas in whatever the conference alignment looks like, the West or whatever it's going to be. Good luck, man, because that's going to be a. I'm not saying it's going to be an Alabama Auburn situation, but there is a lot of money at stake. There's a lot of pride on the line, and that is going to be an interesting scenario. Maybe that's the better bet. I think if we made our bets right now, is Jimbo Fisher the coach when Texas joins the conference? Guys, what do you think in the chat?
Okay.
Do you think Jimbo Fisher is the coach of Texas A&M by the time Texas gets here? Which again, what is it? It's supposed to be. Is it 2025 or I know they're talking about like some kind of process, but
Yeah, I mean,
whatever it is.
as far as I know, it's 25. But I'm gonna.
Interesting thought, right?
That is. I don't know how, but I'm gonna say no.
Well, that's what 3 more seasons. So, yeah, we'll see.
We've got a few questions to answer in chat, and then we got to do best bets.
Yeah, because I've got a tight timeline tonight, so I'm gonna hop off here in about 10 minutes. Let's see.
You know what? We also did not touch Vandy and Ole Miss at all. We barely spent any time on. Let's see, who was it? Georgia, Auburn. I think we've touched on everybody except Vanderbilt and Ole Miss.
Well, guess what, Chris?
Which will be in our backyard this weekend.
Here's a good thing. We've got prediction videos out, preview videos out for all these games. So if you don't want to listen to us talk about them for 15 minutes on this live stream, you can do it right after the live stream. You can go watch those. We've got them up. Our thoughts, our early thoughts, we always do on Sunday night / Monday morning. And go if you want more talk on those games, go find them there. Sorry.
I want a clarification here. Blue Bell Ice Cream Money, is that to buy out Jimbo or is that to sponsor our channel?
Well, you can do both. Why not do both?
Right. Why not?
Yeah. So
Bluebell Ice
this
Cream.
This comment right here, I don't know. I'm sorry, but this just that's a bold take. That's a hot take from the Harrison family. Ole Miss over Vandy. Oh, that was a good one. Oh, sorry, Vandy. I don't have anything against Vandy. We know that. That was the way he worded it got me. So
I do like Ole Miss. That spread is all the way down to 16.5 in that game, and I liked Ole Miss at 18.5.
Here's why. Let me find it for you. I will find that for you as soon as I find it for you. I'm going to find that for you, Chris. This is how we stall. I mentioned this in the preview video that if you look at it, the under, here we go, via covers again. Covers just coming through on this stuff. The under is 7-0 in Ole Miss's last 7 conference games dating back to last season. That's interesting. The under is 11-5 in the last 16 meetings between these two teams. So I think the under is still the best bet here, but the favorite also 4-1 against the spread in the last 5 games between these two. So something else to kind of think about, perhaps. So,
okay, best bets. You could take over-unders. You can take a team. You can take whatever you want.
Oh man, what did we pick last week? I'm trying to remember what we picked last week. I don't think they were very good, were they? Mine weren't. I think Kentucky +7 was my pick, but that was pretty much the only one I got right. All right, best bets. You go first.
Okay, my favorite thing is I like Auburn to cover 29.5 against Georgia. Again,
That is
we
your
are not professional
favorite.
bettors. That is my favorite one.
Wow.
I think that's a lot. Have you seen Georgia the last 2 weeks? Auburn, I know it is fashionable to bash Auburn, and I was the low guy on Auburn before the season, but I watch Auburn. Auburn is not an awful team. No, the offense is dreadful, but the defense has got some talent. Georgia has not exactly been putting 60 on everybody. That's a lot of points, man. Auburn's still got some players. Auburn is not going to win this game, but Auburn is not going to lose it by 29.5 points either.
Man.
My second one is I think I like the under on Vandy Ole Miss. If I had to do a third, probably Alabama in the points. I do also like the under on Tennessee LSU, which is very contrarian, but
I feel like Vegas is really just teasing us with these lines this week. Because, like, last week, like I said, I looked at that group and I was like, man, this looks pretty good. This week, though, I'm looking at some of these and I'm just like, ooh, don't know about that. Don't know about that. I think you're right about Ole Miss Vandy and the under. But the only hesitation I have there is I think if Ole Miss runs the ball the way Ole Miss can run the ball, they could put up a
yeah.
lot of points in this game. That's my only
But that
issue.
might also slow the tempo a little bit too.
That's true. It's true.
Well, Ole Miss is not putting 50 and 60 on team, which like it could do that against Vanderbilt. Don't get me wrong. But
Yeah. I think Alabama, that number's what is it now? 23, something like that.
yeah,
Again, guys, I just don't I want to see A&M put up points against this defense and I just right now I can't find how that works unless their defense turns things, which they can do. Don't get me wrong, like their defense can put themselves in a position to make it the offense easier. But man, I just
Harrison
feel like
family asked the spoiler this week.
maybe that's the better question.
Um, I think if there's one at South Carolina, I still think Kentucky's going to win the game. But if you said, tell me something that could go another way that you don't that you didn't pick, I think it would be South Carolina. South Carolina's just kind of sneakily out there. I know Spencer Rattler's throwing a ton of interceptions. But let's say he has one game where he doesn't, then I think that one gets interesting. I still think Kentucky wins, but Kentucky has not exactly been just blowing everybody away. The games have been close. I mean, 2 weeks ago, Northern Illinois, it wins that one by 7 points.
Spoiler, like
It's either that or Missouri beating Florida, and to me, I would like South Carolina's chances of winning at Kentucky more than I would Missouri's at Florida.
you know what my answer is. Always Arkansas. Always.
Yeah, but if Jefferson's not playing,
That's a running joke. I'm just kidding. I do
I
think
know.
there is a scenario though. I don't think we should put Mississippi State on the level of an Alabama just yet. But yeah, it's tough to pick the spoiler this week. Like you said, I mean, beside like LSU, but I don't really think that's like you're not playing spoiler if LSU Tennessee. I don't think that's necessarily a spoiling situation. I think it's two good teams battling it out. So I might be with you. I may go. I don't know. Missouri doesn't seem like KJ Jefferson. If he was playing, I'd make Arkansas my potential spoiler. But if he's not playing, it's hard to do. So, and the rest of the matchups, I just don't love. Like I said, I don't love A&M and Alabama. I just don't love Auburn at Georgia. I think Georgia could get right this week. So, I'm kind
That's a
of.
lot of points.
It is a lot of points. That's what I said. They can get right and still win by 4 touchdowns, right? And still not cover. Like that's the thing. So like it is kind of a tricky game when you look at it that way. So
Where do you stand on Missouri, Florida? I don't know that I ever got
I
that out of you.
what did I say? I thought it was the I ran through the
That might be your sneaky good game.
good maybe. a strong word, depending on if it turns into a
I
defensive
don't
battle.
know, man. Like I said, go back and look at Missouri's defense a little closer. I know everybody is going off last year where Missouri's defense was awful, but it is not awful this year. Florida's offense has been known to be erratic. I'm just saying. We had all buried Missouri and forgotten about Missouri and pronounced Missouri the worst team in the league after that, whatever that was at Auburn. And Missouri darn near knocked off the defending national champion.
Right. If Missouri plays like they did if they play like they did last week, they can certainly have a chance to beat Florida. I just think it's the emotion, like as much as losing that Auburn game the way that they did was just a complete, just knocks you down. I think losing to Georgia when like you're that, I feel like that knocks you down even more. But
But it
look,
didn't a week ago. What is more
yeah, but
disheartening
I
than
think
giving
that's
away
different.
a game that you could have won at Auburn and you're
Yeah.
going, oh crap, we have to play Georgia now.
But
They
Chris,
wouldn't
beating
have
Auburn
played
and
it.
beating Georgia and and you get that mentally thinking about beating Auburn and thinking about beating Georgia, those are opposite ends of the spectrum right now. And I think that's where I wonder about that. But you're right. The trend
See,
suggests
I, I
that
I see it as if we can't beat Auburn, how in the world are we going to beat Georgia? See, I look at it the other way.
my point is that's fine. But if you once you're in that spot where you have a double digit lead and you have an 81% chance, according to the computers, to beat Georgia in that game, and then you find a way, I don't want to say find a way to lose it because I think Georgia made plays, but then you come out of that and you're like, man, it's 2 weeks in a row now. I think it's a different mental mindset. But I'm not saying you're wrong here. I'm saying that, yes, if you look at the trend is that they have done this back to back weeks, and you would think, okay, maybe they get back up for this one too. Um, I feel like going on the road against the team I think is improving. mm, I think the under is the best choice in that game. I don't love the pick for in terms of who wins, and I said that in our preview video. I think Florida wins, but I don't love knowing how the game plays out. But I think the under is the best choice. So
But by the way, did you see who had every kick imaginable last week?
yeah, we talked about how different it'd be if he hits those against or hits that one against Auburn, the most easy kick you could find, and it just
That's why I did not think that
yeah.
call against Auburn was the maybe you could play it differently. I did not think it was bad as everybody made it out because that kid is money on everything. It just that's one of those 1 in 100 times where it didn't work out
Yeah.
2 weeks ago.
Yep. Well, we will
We
see.
were asked Tennessee LSU. Timothy, if you missed the first of the show, we talked a lot about Tennessee LSU. We also have a preview. I believe we were both taking Tennessee and Tennessee to cover, but I don't think either of us feel strongly about it. If I represented your thoughts pretty well there.
Yeah, like I said, I'm picking Tennessee. I just think that offensively, as of right now, I feel like keeping up for LSU may be a challenge, and we just haven't seen anybody shut Tennessee down to this point. And not saying that LSU can't do it because I said I really like their defensive front, but I just think Tennessee's a tough team to slow down, and that to me is the difference. That it could be a high scoring game because again, like I said, I think Daniels could make some plays against that Tennessee defense, but I just think Tennessee's a different animal offensively right now. So,
Look who's in the chat.
oh, Oreo is in the chat. Well, see,
How
here's
did
the
my
deal with
dog
Oreo.
get in the chat?
When is somebody going to make a Barry? He's laying over here right beside me. Barry's not made a sound. Oreo's over there causing a disturbance all the time. Barry's over here just laying down, taking it easy, and we're giving Oreo all this praise instead. So, yeah. So we'll see. But yeah, we'll see how it plays out. James brings up the Tennessee didn't look great against Pitt. Yes, but Tennessee has beaten Florida.
LSU didn't look great against Auburn part of the game. LSU
Say,
didn't look great against Florida State. You
we
can
did talk
play that
about that,
game with
James.
almost everybody.
I think that's the issue.
But I get it.
But here's the thing: we said that stretch for LSU against Auburn. We're not discounting them coming back and winning the game, but there was a stretch there where man, they made Auburn's passing offense look great, and that's my worry here. is that if you have those kind of stretches against Tennessee, it gets out of hand. But we'll see. Does KJ Jefferson play? I don't know. He hasn't practiced yet, right? If you're not practicing, it's Wednesday.
Last I read, he had not practiced.
So you got
Man, it is a bad week to be a quarterback in the league. You got Bryce Young hurt. Sounds like he will play. LSU's got a quarterback issue. A&M's got different types of quarterback issues, although injury's part of it too. Like, who's healthy at this point? Hendon Hooker, Stetson Bennett, A.J. Swan, Will Levis, Jackson Dart. I guess there's more healthy guys than I thought. Will Rogers. But it seems like there's an unusual number of quarterback injuries right now and in recent weeks.
real quickly before we RP. By the way, we did just discuss Arkansas MSU. We both picked Mississippi State in that one. We talked about the matchup a bit. Probably go back about 15 minutes or so, and you can find that. We did have a pretty good discussion on that one. Quickly, if you're in the chat right now and you are not subscribed, do us a favor. Hit that subscribe button. Also, if you are in the chat right now, do us another favor. Hit that like button. That really helps us out as well. So we appreciate all you guys. And as always, you can leave a super chat. If you want to do that, hit that little heart with the dollar sign in it. You can leave us anywhere from, you can leave us a single penny if you want to, Chris. That will fund the Oreo treat jar. And
the treat jar.
That's the thing. Don't even think that you're contributing to us making more videos. Think that you're contributing to Oreo and Barry, who need treats. That keeps them calm while we do these videos. That's just as important. So, and as Harrison Family always says, the like button, absolutely free. It doesn't cost you a penny. So, same with
one more thing. The other thing that helps is supporting our sponsors. We've got a few that we need to work into the rotation here. But we got one that's a mainstay. That is Stakes. That's our title sponsor. Again, that is a free app. And it is really cool. You can put bets on all kinds of games. And I say bets, there's no money involved. It's just for bragging rights. Maybe next year we will have a contest among all the listeners to see who wins the most games for the year or something like that. But we have created lots of prop bets and stuff. Well, not prop bets yet. We may put a few of those in, but go to Stakes, find our handle Southeastern 14. We have got bets on every game so far. Again, free to play. So jump in there, help us out. Use that promo code Southeastern 14. That gets tracked to see how many of you guys are actually doing that. That keeps us afloat here. So if you've not gone in and downloaded Stakes, it helps us out, but it is also genuinely a lot of fun.
All right, Chris, we're going to rapid fire. We're wrapping up in 5 minutes. That is what we're going to do here. So, by the way, Oreo wants to know the heart button. It's down there somewhere if you're on mobile. If you're on the desktop, I think it's on there too somewhere. You're just looking for the super chat button. Wherever you can find the super chat button, that's what you do. And that allows you to donate to our channel. So you can do that. Find that somewhere. It's like a heart, I think. It's got a dollar sign in it. Look for that kind of stuff. Also, quarterback blitz, the like button. Eric says, yes. Why would you not? Quarterback blitz.
Eric's one of our regulars. Madden.
So goal line, all out blitz is what you're doing on that. Quickly, Ken wants to know thoughts on Ole Miss. I think our opinion on Ole Miss has gotten even higher, right? After last week.
Like them a lot. That team, if I said Oreo, good grief. If Missouri's defense is the best kept secret in the league so far, Ole Miss's is. It's not a secret, but I don't know that it gets talked about enough. Fair?
Yeah, I think their schedule, we keep saying it. We can talk about that they haven't played anyone yet, but they just beat Kentucky, and they've beaten everybody else on their schedule, Chris. And if they do the same against this week, we talked about it. It just sets up really well for them. So we'll see. So
Quinshon Judkins is an awfully good running back too.
Yeah, their running back group is just fantastic. So all right. There was something else I saved earlier, and I know this may be because this is a pretty good question, I thought. Let me find it here.
There were some questions about the Arkansas quarterback situation. I have no idea what they do if it's not Jefferson.
We'll see.
Ooh.
Book it. That's a George Plaster line. Book it, baby.
I'll tell you what. If Missouri's defense is not the best kept secret in the league, Will Shepherd might be.
We'll see.
Vandy receiver, he's very, very good.
Meanwhile, Murray not as optimistic here of Vandy's chances. So, well. All right, Chris, your dog Oreo has done the unthinkable. He has found the super chat button. He has given us $4.99, which I think can buy you a good and fun bag somewhere. I don't know. These days, I'm not sure, Chris. These numbers have gone up. I went out and bought some today, and they're astronomical, buying some kebabs and the good and fun bones. So we appreciate it, Oreo. You're a kind soul. Maybe don't bark as much during the live streams, but
don't
we do
chew my
appreciate
insoles. He does that a lot.
Don't chew the insoles.
You cannot leave shoes out in this house.
We do appreciate it. Thank you, Oreo Puppy Dog.
Yes, seriously.
$4.99. We appreciate the super chat. All right, one more, Chris, and we are wrapping up. I promise this time. This was kind of fun. Brought up by Juan earlier. I saved this one just to make sure we get back to it. So there's a couple of them here. So what if Alabama loses to Tennessee, Tennessee loses to Georgia, and then Alabama beats Georgia in the SEC championship? All right, we're talking about college football playoff stuff here. Okay, think about that for a second. What if LSU beats Alabama and beats Georgia in the SEC championship? Alabama and Georgia's only loss would be to the SEC champion. So many wild scenarios. It's really fun to think about. Like, give yourself a day to really crunch these numbers. Do it before Saturday because everything could change in terms of who wins and who loses these games. But I thought it was kind of fun to think about. There are a lot of fun scenarios like that you could really look at.
So how many losses does Tennessee have in one scenario? Because there was a thing earlier about, does the SEC get 3 in the playoff?
Tennessee would have 1 loss by this scenario from Juan. So that would mean Alabama loses to Tennessee, but Tennessee loses to Georgia. Then Alabama beats Georgia in the SEC championship. So you would have Tennessee with a win over the SEC champion, would have only lost to the team that was represented in the it's a fun thing to think about.
Okay, did one say Tennessee doesn't lose any more games, or do we just assume that?
I mean, we assume that's what he's saying.
We can assume that. That's more fun.
Assuming is perfectly fine. It doesn't, everyone knows the assuming thing. That's perfectly fine.
Okay, well, let's assume that. And then at that point, Tennessee has wins over Pitt, Florida, LSU. Did we have Tennessee beating Bama or beating Georgia in that one? I can't remember.
It was
one
Bama,
of those two.
It was Bama.
Kentucky, and then for what it's worth, South Carolina, Missouri, Vandy. I mean, that's getting you in the playoff.
It's fun to think about, but I think some of those will be. I mean, look, I think the Tennessee one. It all depends on this weekend, right? Like LSU, Tennessee. That's such a big game. So, but I think Hal points out in the chat too. LSU beating Alabama, anyone beating Alabama, is going to be a challenge. So,
although that game is in Baton Rouge, November 3rd.
Yeah.
Although for a while it was the road team that always won that game. I don't think it's that way anymore, but it was weird for 1 or 2 decades. Whoever was the visitor always won that game.
Yeah. By the way, Chris, we're going to wrap up with this because this is a great way to wrap up. And that is with Eric giving us a $10 super chat. So the Oreo Bone Fund has gone up astronomically here in the past 5 minutes. So I think that's why he's not barking over there. But Eric, we always appreciate. I know Eric's one of the regulars here on the live streams. We always appreciate the insight. And hopefully for you, Eric, the Hogs will get back on track here.
Yeah, wrapping up. A lot of people in here live tonight. The numbers took off a little bit. Harrison family
coming back through. Harrison family is supporting our internet bill at this point. With how many super chats we get from the Harrison family. So we love them all, as we always say. Each and every one of them. And Harrison family, if you'd like a handwritten note, let us know. We will send them your way.
If you are new to our channel, we cover baseball, basketball, football, and we cover them in depth. So if you like football,
they got it now.
You're going to love basketball and baseball too. What?
His point. I was like, I'm an LSU fan. Let me just tell you, LSU's not beating Alabama. So I appreciate that. I appreciate the. Look, as we say, it's the SEC. Missouri almost beat Georgia, guys. Again, let's keep that in mind. Look, everybody's optimistic. So I appreciate it.
Yeah. We've got previews of all these games up. If you missed something tonight, if you turned in late, we have talked about every game to some extent, some more than others. We will be having basketball content. What we're rolling out? Are we rolling out more stuff in the morning?
We've got more SEC basketball previews on the way. I know you guys are thinking, guys, we're week 6 in football, but you know how we roll around here. We get our season previews out about a month in advance. And by the way, basketball season starts in a month. So we've got 3 teams out already. We'll have more teams coming out probably this week, if not early next week. So we've got a lot of teams to get to. So we're going to pump those out pretty soon. So if you're a basketball fan, look, you may not be ready to watch that just yet, but just know it's going to be there for you whenever you are ready to watch it. So there you go.
Okay. We have live streams every Wednesday night at 8 Central. So tune in for those. We usually do 2 or 3 live shows on Saturday. This weekend is up in the air. If we do one, I'm going to say it's going to be Saturday night. I don't think we're going to be able to pull one off morning or even mid-afternoon because of schedules. But we usually and we are. Let's put it this way. Is it fair to say we may have a whole lot more live content coming soon?
Guys, we got an announcement coming soon. And I think you guys, if you enjoy this, I think you're going to enjoy it. Let's just put it that way. I don't want to oversell too much, but if you enjoy what we do in these live streams and you enjoy our channel in general, we got a pretty fun announcement that will probably come, Chris. I'm going to tentatively say this early next week. We're going to make the official announcement. So if you're excited for the announcement, Chris, we're going to do this Stone Cold Steve Austin style. All right. If you're excited for the announcement we're going to have next week on our channel, give us a hell yeah in the chat. There you go. Stone Cold Steve Austin. That's how he did it, Chris. Don't open any beers though. Don't do that. So,
well, and if we have not been doing this very long. We didn't really start putting a lot of content on our channel till January. Then we had to take 2 months off in the middle of baseball season for unforeseen stuff. And so we've really only been hitting this hard for about 6 months. Yeah. And it's grown quickly, and we have had this is about as much fun as I've had doing any media thing in my life. So we are very, very excited to have you guys here. Very excited to do this, and I think you are going to, if things go to plan, going to be seeing a lot more of us.
Yep, we will have that early next week. We appreciate you guys as always, and yeah, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. That helps us more than anything. So you guys are great. Always love the discussion.
Yeah, God bless everybody. Have a great, safe, wonderful weekend. Be safe as you go to games. Again, thank you for watching. We'll probably have some content coming out, not live on the site Thursday and Friday. And again, we will probably do some live shows. I'm going to guess we will try to squeeze one in Saturday night. No promises, but I think that's going to be the aim. Anyway, thank you to Stakes. Thank you to everyone in the audience for watching. We appreciate all of you. He's Blake Lovell. I'm Chris Lee. We are Southeastern 14, and we'll see you again very soon.